Hey guys, welcome back for another week of NHL Power Rankings with the Ice Hockey Aussies. It is week 18 or 17 with the All-Star break in between. It's a bit of both, 17 and 18. So we'll get started with pick 32, and I've got no change with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't think they played too many games across the last 2 weeks, but they they faced the Minnesota Wild, lose 2-1, and they played the New York Rangers and lose 3-4, 4-3 in overtime. So I think that was their only 2 games. I don't think they played last week either. So yeah, I mean, not much you can do. They get 1 point out of the 2 games they played. Um, Albeit you can say, they put up a good effort against a very solid New York Rangers team. So, but other than
Yeah.
that, it just wasn't enough to move them.
No, I think they're playing better. Still not great. I think they were kind of robbed in the Rangers game by poor refereeing. People would think it was a hip check. I'm sorry, but when you hit someone in the leg, that's 100% a trip. And then they go and go extra man and go and score a goal, and that's how they win in OT. For the Rangers do against Chicago. So I think Chicago were kind of robbed in OT there. They could have probably got 2 points. They're playing well, but limited games, and they're still not playing. Probably anywhere to pass the Ducks or the Sharks at the moment, who are pretty much the bottom three, solidified in this season for the standings.
And with the team they've got, I don't think anyone expected any different.
Yeah. 31. No movement. San Jose.
Same here.
And this team, it just does not get to play games. They
We
haven't played.
played last week.
Yeah, well, they don't get to play any games coming up. They did lose an OT to the Ducks, but um, I can't remember, was that before the break? But
Yeah,
yeah,
before the break, and
yeah,
they also beat the Kraken 2-0.
yeah. So the games were before it, but they don't have a game to what is it, Wednesday or Wednesday American time, Canadian time, I guess you could say, Thursday our time. And so that they got probably the longest All Star break, and yeah, so hopefully they can come bouncing back, but I don't know, maybe they want the number 1 draft pick, so hopefully they don't.
I mean, yeah, like I think these bottom three, I don't think you're really hoping that they win too much, and I don't think they're hoping they win too much. I think they're hoping they play solid and don't get blown to pieces, but I'm pretty sure most of them are happy. Well, most fans are happy with them
You want
tanking as much
yeah,
as they can.
you want your flippable
Um,
assets to do good. That's it.
exactly. That's pretty much what these teams are hoping for at the moment, is that the assets on UFAs or whatever, they can just flip for as good assets as possible and just hopefully boost these rebuilds and have their turnaround time only being, 2 or 3 years rather than 5 or 6. But moving on to another one of those teams in the bottom three, it's the Anaheim Ducks. Not moving either for myself
Yep.
or you. Um, yeah, look, they didn't play too much either. They only got the 1 game, I think. Don't even think they played last week. Oh no, they did. They played the
Yeah.
one game against the Sharks,
Yep.
which they won in overtime, and then they lost to the Edmonton Oilers 5-3. So, again, small sample size. The All Stars break always throws a bit of a spanner in the works. Um, Look, they're not a terrible side. I think they've got the pieces there. Youngsters coming through are showing a lot, and you've got Mason McTavish, who I think has been really important to this Ducks side this season, coming through really well. So again, I think it's all about getting to that deadline, flipping your assets, turning it in, and trying to speed this rebuild up because they've got pieces. They just need to add a few more, and I think we'll see a much better side, come this time next season.
Yeah, I'd like to see them trade Zegras at the deadline or before the deadline. I feel like their rebuild is dependent on him leaving, but that's me personally. Let us know down below if you agree with that or not, especially if you're a Ducks fan. 29 for me, Blue Jackets. Another team not moving. Don't worry, guys. There is movement for me later up. Don't worry. It's not all stale.
You
But
just kept it the same. It was too hard. It was just too hard.
yeah. So before the break, they beat the Blues 1-0, and then they come after the break and they lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning 4-2. So 1-1, 500. It's good win against the Blues, who have been in decent form. They took it to Tampa, but it's just same old. Not all the results they need. And look, they play good. They just don't finish games.
100%. They can't hold leads.
Mm.
Sums up their season.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to 28. I've got the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, I have a little higher. Just
Oh.
well, I was higher on them last week as well. Oh,
Ooh,
actually,
well, we were
Montreal.
the same.
I did not move.
Oh, no, you really have just done the same list as last week, haven't you?
It's all the same, guys. It's
I was going to say, you're just completely trolling. Bloody hell. So Montreal's week, I mean, I don't believe they didn't play last week before the All-Stars break, and this week they played Washington Capitals, where they got a 5-2 win, and the Dallas Stars with a 2-3 loss. So ultimately, it's a pretty good week for them, and it's probably pretty harsh from me to drop them 2 positions. I just think there's a couple of teams below them playing slightly. That were below them that are now in front of them playing slightly better.
Yeah, I'm the same. But people fell down below as well, so they just stay the same. Decent win against Washington. I feel like they're one of the teams that probably has the most wins while having less than shots than the opponent. So they were negative 13 in shots against Washington. They're negative 18 shots against Dallas. So that's not pretty. But score-wise, they were very competitive. Then that's what counts there. On to my 28. Fall from grace, not really, but Buffalo Sabres. I went hard.
Yeah, no, look, they're my 27.
Yeah.
So,
So
similar.
look, I have movement, guys. I have movement. It's fine. But yeah. So what they come up against Dallas. They took it to Dallas, very good, but they still lose in regulation. And then they up against St. Louis. Still played decent, but they lose in regulation, and that just seems to be the problem that I have with them is like they're not winning the games they should. That's my problem.
No, exactly. I think it's been a real disappointment. And unfortunately, yeah, I think it's season over. I don't think we're going to see a last ditch effort,
The St.
come
Louis
from
run.
nowhere sort of effort. Well, similar to what they did last season. They put in a real good effort towards the back end of the season and only fell 1 point short. But yeah, I think they've left themselves too much to do this season, and I just don't think they're in the form to do it. I don't think they're getting goaltending. Yeah, so there's a lot of questions that they need to address in the off season, that's for sure. All right, 26 for myself is the Washington Capitals.
My 23.
Oh, it's a big difference. Yeah, look, I just don't think they've been anywhere near their old selves, which is really, really funny to say because, Ovechkin's actually finding some goal scoring form. He's finally putting up some goals, which is incredible. But as for their play, it's been regressing for a little while now, and yeah, I'm not liking the way it's trending. But their week went as so they didn't play last week before the All Stars game, and they lost 5-2 to the Montreal Canadiens, 4-2 to the Florida Panthers, and they beat Boston 3-0. So they can still pull off some crazy wins. But ultimately, I think that we're gonna continue to see them, start to progress backwards.
Yeah, I think they're coming back into form. Not as much as they were when they were overachieving at the start of the season. I probably my prediction is they might climb up the ladder just a little bit. From now, I think they're playing a little bit more, better than they were. It's not going to be great, pretty hockey, and it's not going to get them in the playoffs. But I feel like they're going to do a little bit better. Bit of a hard week coming up against Boston and Florida, but they beat at least one of them and lose to Montreal where they should have won. 27 for me. Another team falling down. Arizona Coyotes.
I think they're my 25. Yep.
Yeah, this is just a team that's just been disappointing for me. Probably 2 months on now. It's just disappointment after disappointment every week. Granted, hard week. Vegas and Nashville. They lose to Vegas 3-2 in regulation, outshot by 12. And then they go to OT against Nashville, lose it in OT. So they took it to a pretty decent team there. It's just I just every week it seemed to be a little bit disappointed with them. Even though they keep scores close, maybe the shot count isn't close or the score isn't close, and but the shots are. It's either or.
They've definitely been, going backwards for a little bit now. There was a time there where I think we were all wondering whether this was the year that they contend for a wild card spot.
Felt
And I don't, yeah, it did. It really did feel like it. And I don't think any of us are really thinking that at the moment. I think we're back to, where we were at the start of the season, thinking, probably 80 points, a point per game sort of situation, which is really all they've been putting up for probably the last month or two now. All right, on to my 24. I have the Ottawa Senators making a little bit of waves, a little bit of movement. They got a long way to come back if they're going to do anything, but hey, look, I think they're 6-2-2 or something in the last 10. And they had a pretty good week. Well, sorry, I should say last 2 weeks, because this week they only played the one game. But before the All-Stars break, they had two games which they beat the Nashville Predators 4-3 in overtime, and they beat the the Detroit Red Wings 3-2 in overtime, and then this week they finished off the week with a Toronto Maple Leafs win, a win against the Toronto Maple Leafs 5-3. So they're on a 3-game winning streak, 3 good wins as well. Like I have to point that out. They played some pretty good teams. Nashville Predators are a wild card contending team. Detroit Red Wings are in some really good form, and Toronto are Toronto. So, yeah, look, I think it's similar to Buffalo. I think it's all too late for them. But, this is a team that we all expected to do a lot better than what they've done so far. So maybe they're finally showing what they're capable of.
alrighty. 24 Minnesota Wild.
23.
And another team that's kind of come into form. They beat Chicago 2-1, beat Pittsburgh 3-2, both games in regulation. So in form, probably easier of a schedule. Pittsburgh's a hard team to come up against. They'll take it to you, but I just probably need to see more sample size with more competitive teams as well, to see if this is a rejuvenation for the Wild. They are 6-4 in the last 10, and obviously a two game winning streak. So it's all in the positive, but I just need to see more from probably a little bit better competition. That's probably in the top 16 or even top 10.
All right, moving on at 22, I've got the New York Islanders.
All right, same here.
Yeah, look, I mean, they don't have a bad week. They actually had a reasonably good week. They get a 3-2 win against the Toronto Maple Leafs. They get a 6-2 win against Tampa Bay Lightning, who were in and are in some pretty good form. And then they lose 2-5 to the Calgary Flames, who are also in some pretty good form at the moment. I'm still just not sold on them. I think they've got issues. I just don't know if they're going to be able to overcome them. So yeah, look, they're still in a pretty good position considering, what they're 4 games above 500. They're, I think, 4 points out of a wild card spot or something like that. So they're still in the race. Personally, I just don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they've got what it takes. I think their overtime losses are the only thing keeping them in this season. But who knows? You can't write them off because you know that defensively they're going to always be in games.
Alrighty, 21. I have a team falling down, Seattle Kraken.
Same here.
Yeah, so they fall a bit. They face the Flyers, lose 3-2 in regulation. They got their shots doubled. They only had 19 and Philly had 38. I believe they played before the break as well. They lost to the Sharks, and I think that was it. So two big losses in a sense. Philly's not a big loss, but how they lost it is how I'm saying it's a big loss. And I think their last 10 is pretty bad as well. 3-6-1 in the last 10. So pretty disappointing after the little run they had to the near or in the top 16, and now the 21.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think everyone thought that they were back to last season's form. Sort of a Minnesota-ish run they went on that I think they both did it to us, where they, we're like, oh, here they come back to last season's form, and then just, came crashing down. But there's still 30 odd games left in the season, and I don't think they're out of it just yet, but they need to get back to that form they found. Otherwise, they're in trouble. All right, on to 20. I have the Los Angeles Kings.
All right, that's my 18.
Ooh, at 18.
I mean, it's not a big move in regards to like. I feel like
Nah.
these three teams even are very close.
Oh, I agree. I think they're all in that position of, what the hell are you doing, to be honest. And that's where I feel at the start of the season, I didn't think I'd be saying this about the Kings, but they played last week against the St. Louis Blues, where they lost in overtime. And I believe they played once more against the Nashville Predators, which they won 4-2, even though they were heavily outshot. And then they played the one game this week where they beat the Edmonton Oilers 4-0. So they get basically 5 out of 6 points, which is why I considered moving them up. However, they've been playing some pretty poor hockey as of late. So I just kept them where they were for now, hoping to see them continue this form.
Yeah. Speaking of poor teams, 20 New Jersey Devils.
Yep.
So yeah, I had to make them a move because this team has many problems. They're playing good. They just need to fix things. Tough week. They come up against Colorado. They win that one. Really good win. Calgary. It's informed Calgary. They lose that 5-3. And they come up in a very defensive game against Carolina. Basically goalless, goes to OT, and Carolina win it in OT. So look, from the week you'd probably go, oh look, they went 500. It's not bad, but yeah, this team's got problems. I can't see them doing anything without a goalie change. They're probably going to trade something they shouldn't trade in regards to getting that goalie. And so, yeah, this team's got woes, especially injury woes as well. And it's, probably honestly, in my opinion, need a coaching change. And I don't see it getting better unless something's done.
Look, they've got to make a move now. I just find it funny that they get an absolute disgraceful performance in net against Calgary, and then for some reason Vanacek stays in net for the game against Carolina, but somehow doesn't let a goal in for 60 minutes, and they still can't get the win. I just, yeah, like they finally have a goaltender not let in 3 goals or more, and they can't score all of a sudden. So yeah, it's definitely goaltending issue. I think coaching is a big thing. I agree with you there, but yeah, they're running out of time. They're like a couple of other teams that we've spoken about. they're running out of time. If they don't do anything,
Yeah, well, I mean,
they're
they're
they're going to miss
six
out.
points out of the wild card. Like, you can't really fall off too much more. There's not enough games in the season left. So
Exactly. All right, at 18, probably another team we could talk about running out of time. The Pittsburgh Penguins.
yep.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're not in they're not in great form, and I feel like we've probably said this all through the year. They go in waves, this up and down form. Even though they had a okay start to the week with a big 3-0 win against the Winnipeg Jets, but they closed it out disappointingly with a 3-2 loss against the Wild, and then a 2-1 loss on the back-to-back against the Winnipeg Jets. So, they end the week with only 2 points of a possible six. Even though, it's playing the Jets on a back-to-back is extremely tough. But when you're chasing that last wildcard spot, 2 out of 6 points just isn't going to cut it. And I think they're 4-4, 2-2 or something in their last 10 as well. So
Yeah.
they definitely need to
They're,
get moving.
they're the team that plays like decent, but yeah, it's just not getting the results when they should. Which is
Yep.
unlike what Pittsburgh used to do. On to 17, just outside the top 16 for me, Calgary. So
Yeah, same here.
big movement this week. They couldn't edge in just yet, but it's a different team. After the trade with Kuzmenko, they go and beat Boston 4-1. They beat New Jersey 5-3, and then they beat Islanders 5-2. So extremely good wins there against three difficult opponents. And honestly, this team looks different. Huberdeau's rejuvenated because of Kuzmenko. Everything's just starting to click now, and honestly, this team could go on a run. Could have been the trade that revitalizes it this season for Calgary.
Well, exactly. I mean, they've got a pretty good goaltender in Markstrom, whether or not he gets traded or not. But hey, when they're in this good form, maybe they don't move him on.
Yeah, he's probably not on the block anymore.
Well, exactly, right? Like, because one of the things was scoring. All of a sudden, they're scoring goals. Huberdeau's, got himself a sniper now. So yeah, look, I could see these guys bouncing back, quite well, and with a goaltender like Markstrom, yeah, he could take him a long way. All right, let's get into this top 16. Hey, started off, I have moving nowhere the Nashville Predators.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, look, they played, I think, a couple of games before the All-Stars break. They get a 4-3 loss against the Ottawa Senators. They get a 4-2 loss against the Kings. And then they come into this week and they have the one game against the Arizona Coyotes, which they win 5-4. So I think they went 1-1-1. So, 500, which isn't the worst, but also isn't the best when you're trying to sort of solidify a wild card spot, which I think they're currently just out of at the moment. So, look, I still like Nashville, and I still think they're probably a roughie to take that wild card spot. But they definitely need to be making more of their weeks than 500.
Yeah. Simple as that. 15, moving up, St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, they don't move for me.
Team that's just been in decent form for a while now. They beat Buffalo 3-1, and I do believe they played a game before the break, and they lost 0-1 to the Blue Jackets. So in regulation. So they go 500. Two easy opponents, probably should have beaten both, but I still like how they've been playing, and it's they've been playing consistent in regards to it. I'm still got my worries, but I don't know if I favor them on Nashville and any other teams in the West at the moment. I think it's very neck and neck, and I'm just waiting to see what happens at the trade deadline. I think that changes everything.
You definitely have to say that one of those wild card spots are going to go to either the Blues or the Predators. Like
Yeah,
one of these two teams, if not both, one of them are going to take a wild card spot.
you have to. You have
Yeah,
to.
yeah. All right, on to 14. I have just falling a little bit. The Toronto Maple Leafs.
Ooh,
No cause for concern.
same thing, just one higher.
Or 13. Yeah, no cause for concern. I think I can't see them getting kicked out of a playoff spot, that's for sure. But they have an iffy week. They lose 2-3 to the New York Islanders, 5-4 win against Dallas, and then a 3-5 loss against the Ottawa Senators. So 2 from 6 points. An informed Ottawa, they beat Dallas and they lose to Islanders. So they probably win the game that I would have expected them to lose and lost the two that I would have expected them to win. So a bit of a iffy week for them. But like I said, no real cause for concern. I think this team is just one of those teams that just has to get to the playoffs and perform in the playoffs. I don't think their regular season performance really matters because we've seen it. Doesn't matter how good they are, they can get whacked in the playoffs. At this point, it's just about getting to the playoffs and performing when it matters.
Yeah, simple as that. 14 for me. I have Tampa Bay Lightning.
Ooh, they are my 12.
Yeah, moving down just a little bit. They start out, they lose to the Rangers 3-1, only have 18 shots. On a back-to-back, they lose 6-2 to the New York Islanders, and then they get a win against the Blue Jackets 4-2. So they face all the all Metro teams. They come out with only one win, facing the easiest. Only 18 shots against the Rangers. It was a low shooting game, to be fair. But yeah, I don't know. I think with Sergachev out, that's a huge part of their decor. Their decor looks kind of rough now at the moment, and I don't think like Kucherov and whatnot can carry that hard. Like how much more can that man carry? So I don't know. I feel like it might be the start of a downhill slide.
Look, look, I think that man can carry a lot, to be perfectly honest with you.
Oh, he's been doing it.
But yeah,
He
look,
got booed at the All Star, but he's been doing it.
I mean, come on, as if you didn't expect that from him for crying out loud. But yeah, look, I mean, I think it was Sergachev's first game back in since last year, basically. So very disappointing to see him go down like that. He is obviously a very important player to them, but in saying that, I think they've done all right without him, and they'll continue to do okay without him. I still think they'll make the playoffs. I
Oh, yeah.
just I just
I'm
don't
not
know
saying
how
anything
far
like
they
that.
can go.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, 13 for me. I have the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, then my 12.
Yeah, look, definitely better. They were slipping a little bit, I think, and they sort of redeemed themselves with a really good week against some really good opponents. So they get a 2-1 win against the Florida Panthers, a 4-1 win against the Winnipeg Jets, and a 3-2 win against the Seattle Kraken. So they go undefeated, and yeah, look, they really get their season back going. Like every time I think that maybe this team might start to regress, they bounce straight back. So at this point in time, unless they go and sell the farm at the deadline, I think these guys are going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern with this team is just the streakiness. They win 5, they lost 5. Now what they're winning 3 or something like that. Like it's a little bit streaky for me. I think Cooch, my God, I was about to say Kucherov. I think
Ouch.
their coach is, he's got the blessing in regards to Philadelphia in the sense that I feel like his coaching style works if you don't have too many stars. You have a lot of lower end players and not much ego, so he can be more of that dominant coach, and I think that's working well at Philly there. All right, on to my pick. It is 11 Winnipeg Jets falling from grace for me.
Yeah, and wow, is it a fall from grace?
Yeah, so I don't even know where to start with this team. Like They get shut out by the Pittsburgh Penguins, 3-0. They lose to the Flyers 4-1, and then they beat Pittsburgh by a goal 2-1 in regulation. You know, they're still a really good team, but they've been sliding for probably 2 to 3 weeks now. You know, combining All Star, maybe a month. So yeah, I still think they're very competitive, but they're no longer that powerhouse juggernaut that they were, you know, a month ago.
I look, I think all teams have it, and go through it. We've seen it, Rangers were number one for weeks, and then I think you had them at 13. I had them at 13 last week. So, all good teams have their moments, and I'm thinking that this is just theirs. And I think they're going to bounce back, and I think they're a lock for top three in the Central. And I think they could even take out the Central. So, yeah, I'm not too concerned, although their ranking did have to fall because of their performances. All right, top 10. We could talk about another Central team that's struggling just a little bit, the Colorado Avalanche.
Ooh, I haven't fallen off just as much. I've got them at 6 still. Like, not
Oh, I'm
still.
calling bias on this. Bloody hell.
What?
Winnipeg, Winnipeg have the same last 10. Colorado have lost 4 in a row, Jaden.
I like Colorado's game more than Winnipeg's, but that's me.
Yeah, no,
Besides their
fair. Nah,
goaltending,
it
of course.
it was also only 3 in a row. I over exaggerated that a little bit. But yeah, look, they go, they go. Oh no, it is 4 in a row.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's fine.
Hmm, it's 4 in a row.
No,
They they lose to the New York Rangers 2-1. They lose to the Devils 5-3. They lose to the Carolina Hurricanes 5-2, and they lose to the Florida Panthers 4-0. So they have lost 4 in a row, and yes, it's a little bit of a fall from grace.
yeah.
So
No, it's just the teams they verse. Like, they verse basically 3 teams that are obviously in our top 10, and New Jersey Devils, which is on a back-to-back. So that's always a tough game. So I don't read too much into all these losses. Obviously being this competitive team, you'd want to see them win it. But they're kind of in the same boat as New Jersey. Basically, they have to get a goaltender, in my opinion, and maybe even get a center. Like, this goaltending's been on and off compared to New Jersey's, where it's been off. But they also do need a center. So I think they've got a couple of pieces to add, and I think that's probably going to make them even stronger. But I like the way they play. That's the thing. Whereas the Jets, I don't like the way they've played recently, compared to a month ago, where I really like their game. So
yeah, no, that's fair enough. I still think they're an absolute powerhouse, even though they've
I
lost 4.
I think
And you've
this
got
top 13, 14 is powerhouse.
100%. And you've got to say, like, the 4 teams they lost against were pretty strong.
Yeah, well,
You know.
yeah, I think they're obviously all in that top 10. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right, on to my number 10, New York Rangers.
Yeah, they're up to 7 for me.
Ooh, that's a big move.
Yeah. Oh, look, I've liked them. I think they got out of the slump
I'm gonna
and they're
call
back.
bias, okay? uh,
Payback's a bitch.
so they're 6-3-1. They've won the last 4, but they beat Colorado. It was in OT. Then they go and beat Tampa 3-1. Only the 24 shots. They kept them to 18, and then they go OT with Chicago. Honestly, I didn't move as high as because I don't feel like that was a win. Chicago did a good comeback, and then honestly, a blatant trip in my opinion, cost Chicago the game. So it is what it is, but yeah, I feel like going to OT, shootout, whatever you want against a team like that is 32nd overall is never a positive. So yeah.
3-1 up. I think they really shit the bed. I'm not
No,
going to
Chicago
sugarcoat it.
really came back strong, and they were looking really good. But yeah, I just still can't get over the blatant trip by Fox on. I forget who it
He
was behind the net.
Dickinson. Yeah, Dickinson. He wasn't happy. But yeah, I mean, let
Oh,
us know
the whole
your
bench
thoughts
wasn't
below.
happy.
Was it a was it a trip, or did the ref make the right call? But yeah, it wasn't a good look.
Yeah,
All right, let's move on to my number 9. I have the Vegas Golden Knights.
yeah, same here.
Yeah, look, I mean, they were out of the top 16, I think, a little while ago, and they've turned it right back around. Um, they, I think they only played the 2 games this week, but they go undefeated. They break the Edmonton Oilers' hearts and end the 16-game winning streak with a 3-1 victory. Yeah, it was absolutely insane. Uh, the way they celebrated when they broke that record was like it meant something to them, which is crazy. But then they beat the Arizona Coyotes 3-2 as well. So undefeated. I think they're 7-2-1 in the last 10. They're getting their mojo back. And I think that they still have the ability. I still have question marks, but I think they still have the ability to go back to back this year. They just have to find this form at the right time.
Alrighty, on to P8 for me, Detroit Red Wings.
They're my P6.
Ooh, someone's high on them.
Ooh.
So yeah, they go against Vancouver, win in OT in what looked like a playoff game, and I think that was it for both weeks. So look, they play one game, one of the top teams, and it was a playoff game basically. It was high intensity. It was a good game. It goes to OT and they win in OT. Honestly, I don't count OT that much just because it's not 5-on-5 hockey. So in my opinion, it's a draw. And yeah, look, they're really good. They move up purely because of how competitive that game was. I feel like they're almost ready for playoff hockey.
Yeah, they also lost to the Senators in OT the week before All Stars, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, look, the reason I've got them at 6, they're one of my favorite teams to watch. I try to watch as much as possible, like replays or whatever it is, but I definitely make it an objective to watch as many of their games as possible because they are exciting when they're playing at this level. They went through a bit of a form slump where that sort of disappeared, but I feel like they're getting that back. And when they're at their best, they are scary. I just think inexperience could be what sort of lets them down in the long run. All
Alrighty.
right, 8 for me. I have the Dallas Stars.
Ooh, okay. Dallas Stars 7.
And off. Yeah, look, I don't know what you can really say about these guys. I just think they're just getting it done every week. They beat the Buffalo Sabres 2-1. They lose to the Toronto Maple Leafs 4-5, and they beat the Montreal Canadiens 3-2. So a weaker draw, but again, it's the one thing that there's a reason why these guys are where they are in the standings. It's because when they have weaker draws, they capitalize. They make it count. They beat the teams, and it's why they are where they are. I know there's some question marks around some of their gameplay, and I think Ottinger at one point, he's being questionable, but they've got all the pieces, in my opinion, to go all the way. They've just got to put it together when it counts, basically.
Yeah, I'd love someone in the comments to let me know. I feel like this team has the most one goal difference games in the league. Every week, I feel like there's at least two. So, I, if someone could track that stat down, if at all, but all games this week were by one goal difference. So, I thought that's just interesting, and it's something I've noticed with the Dallas Stars anyway. On to 5 for me, Boston Bruins.
Yeah, it kind of feels wrong having them at 5, doesn't it?
Yeah, for where they are in the standings, but they come up against a hot Calgary. They lose 4-1. They blank Vancouver 4-0, and then they get blanked themselves by Washington 3-0. So a little bit of a mixed bag. Then they haven't been getting the results as they were earlier on in the season, and they got a few OT points as well, but difficult week in regards to Calgary, which is in informed Calgary and Vancouver, and then the Washington game. Only having 18 shots against Washington is the concerning point for me, and it's why they moved down.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you on that Washington point, but I still think they're a very strong team, and I'm actually really interested to see how they go in the playoffs because all the expectation was last year is they've got to do something. They've almost got to win it, and they got bounced first round. I just feel like there's that chip on their shoulder that they might just have a lengthy playoff run.
Is
All
it
right.
is it legal for them to sign Bergeron at this point? just
Ah,
bring him back for the playoffs. Just let it happen.
as long as it's done before trade deadline, I think it's actually perfectly legal.
I feel
So
like they should do that. I feel like
keep,
we need that.
yeah, keep an eye out for Bergie coming back, eh? It would be interesting. But all right, at number 4, I have the Edmonton Oilers.
Same here.
Yeah, I mean, look, 16 games straight. They're probably not. They're not moving down because they lost 2 games. They're moving down because I think a couple other teams are really, really good, and that's just how good a lot of these teams are in this top 10. You could almost go from second to ninth just from one bad week. But yes, obviously their absolute killer run gets ended by the Vegas Golden Knights 3-1. They then beat the Anaheim Ducks 5-3. That was a big comeback game. I think they were 3-1 down in that game. And then the 4-0 shutout loss against the Kings. So that wasn't ideal. And also being down to the Anaheim Ducks didn't bode too well either. But, again, 16 straight, losing 2 out of 3 games ain't bad in reality. I think they'll bounce back, and I think you'll probably see for the rest of the year they play some pretty solid hockey.
All right. My number 3, Vancouver.
Yep.
And yeah, so it's been a little bit on the downside as of recently, but they're still playing really good hockey. Obviously, coming up against Carolina, win that. Boston get shut out 4-0, and then they come and go to OT, as we mentioned, against Detroit in a playoff game, basically. Honestly, probably the hardest or one of the hardest schedules of the week. 3 basically playoff teams, all in our top 8. So a very hard week. I think they're playing well. I don't know how this Lindholm trade's playing out for them, and I'm not sold on it. I feel like it was a little bit too much for a player, but obviously Kuzi wasn't working out. I don't know. It's working out for Calgary, not so much for Vancouver at the moment. I still think this team's obviously playoffs. I don't know how well they're going to play in playoffs though.
I
But
mean, he did
Demko's
have
playing
2 goals in
amazingly.
his first game.
Demko
He did
is
have
playing.
2 goals in his first game.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
yeah, and then does nothing for the rest of the
Yeah.
season.
Well, I mean, yeah, that it's. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm with you on it. I think they did pay too much. But I guess if Lindholm can, like Kuzmenko potentially, if Kuzmenko gets back to last season's form, that's a massive win for Calgary, despite his defensive liabilities. But if Lindholm can find, 3 seasons ago's form, he's a massive asset, especially as that 2-way center with his face-off ability. So uh, if he stays in the form he's been in, yes, it's going to be a big ugly thing for the Canucks. But if he can find his groove in a new scenery, I think it could end up being a pretty good trade for the Canucks. All right, number 2. I'm really interested to see who you've got at number 1 this week, and if we differ. But I've
I
got
flipped
the
him
Florida
around about
Panthers.
5 times. I'm not even kidding. But it is
Well,
Florida at
I've
number
got the
2.
Florida Panthers. Oh, we
Yeah.
did. Well, I was a lock on my number one. I
No,
put him there.
I flipped like 5
I
times.
I questioned it maybe once, but I was pretty much locked on my number one. It looks like you went the same. So, yeah, look, Florida could well and truly have been number one. They've been pretty good for quite some time now. Absolutely different to last season where they just scraped in by the skin of their teeth. Um, they start the week off with a 2-1 loss against the Philadelphia Flyers. They have a 4-2 win against the Washington Capitals and a 4-0 win against the Colorado Avalanche. So 4 of 6 points, pretty decent week besides the loss against the Flyers. But again, the Flyers are pretty solid this season. So, you take that. But yeah, I mean, they're a dangerous team. And if they made the Stanley Cup final last season on, the back of some pretty shitty form throughout the entire season, what are they going to do in the form they're in this season?
No, it's a very valid question. On to obviously the number 1, Carolina Hurricanes.
They're back.
Yeah, they're very much back. I think they're also getting goaltending, a little bit better goaltending compared to what they've been getting this season, and that is helping out their defense, which is back to last season's form. Start off the week, they lose by a goal to Vancouver, then they go and beat Colorado 5-2, and then they OT win against New Jersey in that defensive game. That was goalless until obviously the OT winner. Um, and yeah, I think that New Jersey game is kind of the symbol of they are back. Fully defensive game. They got good goaltending. He was in really hot form. Basically since was it the second or third period in the Colorado game? I'm forgetting his name right now, the goaltender, but he's just been in hot form for about four
Oh,
periods. So
yeah,
um,
Koch, yeah.
I'm forgetting his name right now, but yeah, about 4 or 5 periods he's been in just hot form. So if that remains with this defense, I feel like this team's kind of impossible to beat.
Well, look, that their defense is finally clicking again, which is, amazing. I think Brett Pesce's out at the moment, but D'Angelo stepped in for him, seamlessly. I mean, how good's that? You're down a pretty good defenseman, and you have Tony D'Angelo stepping up for you. Um, so yeah, look, they've got defensive depth. They've got probably top 3 best defense in the league, in my opinion, when they're on. They've just got to get that goaltending, and I don't even know how to say his name, but Koshchevkov. If he can turn it on, that's all they need, because I also think they've got the scoring ability this season as well. Um, their power plays on song this year, unlike last season. Um, so yeah, I think that was the area that they lacked last season. I think that they've addressed that and they've improved on that. But they sort of gave away a little bit of their defensive structure and they lost their goaltending a little bit. They've got that back now, and I still think they've got that scoring power. So yeah, sky's the limit for this team, because I was quite disappointed when they lost the Eastern Conference final, because I think these guys are built for a cup.
Yeah, no, this team definitely deserves a cup. I'd probably argue that Panthers probably deserve a cup at this point as well. Yeah, if you're probably going to say 2 teams deserve a cup, it's probably those two. And then, honestly, you could probably say Avs again. Boston, maybe just because they're doing crazy things. But honestly, who I'd like to see win a cup probably from the East at the moment would be either the Canes or the Panthers. I think that would be amazing. Let us know in the comments below. What do you think of our power rankings? What do you think? Who's going to win the cup? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Don't forget to check out our shorts, uploading daily, OV scoring, so maybe hopefully some more OV ones as well. But till next time, we'll catch you guys.
See you later, guys.